I got through The Acolyte. And what do I have to say about The Acolyte? Or is it just Acolyte? It doesn't matter. So, my journey through this show was I watched the premiere. I had a couple people yell at me about it. And then I was like, I'm not going to watch the rest of the show. And then I heard some people talking about it. Just talking about it, not really saying anything crazy. And then, I saw some videos online. I was like, fine, I'll finish it. So, weeks later, I finally finished it. Like, just powered through it in one night. And so, I'll tell you the trajectory. The journey of me watching this show. So basically, I was watching it, but like I was kind of like scrolling on my phone most of the time. But I will say, with each episode, I kind of looked at my phone less, and it took to the last 2 episodes for me to be like, okay, I'm putting my phone down. I'm actually gonna watch this. That's how I that's how I felt about the show. Now I hear a lot of people say a lot of mean things about the show, and well, I mean, it was okay. Like, I didn't necessarily hate it. I didn't necessarily love it. There's things I could nitpick at it. Here's the best way I describe the show. It reminds me if, let's say I go to a restaurant with my friend and, it's like, oh, there's a special today. Or, you ask the waiter, like, what's good here, and, or something like that. Waiter, or you read the special. You know what? I always eat, like, let's say you get chicken tenders, because most restaurants have chicken tenders. If restaurants don't have chicken tenders, why am I going to this restaurant, right? You know what? I'm trying something new today. I'm gonna try the soup of the day or whatever. You try the soup, you're drinking it or eating it or whatever, and your friend's like, "How was the soup?" And then you say, "It's all right. I wouldn't get it again." That's the best way to describe how I felt about the show. It was okay, but I wouldn't watch it again. I'm not necessarily saying this is a review. This is just like how I felt about it, and like because there were things I did like about Acolyte, and there's things I wasn't really feeling it. I've had mixed opinions hearing what people say about it. I will say this: I learned, and I have no idea if I ever want to make that much Star Wars content, because as I've been making videos recently about different types of media, I've learned that the certain fan bases get very passionate about their crafts. Marvel fans kind of get passionate, but they're not too bad. But Star Wars fans, wheesh. I remember when I made a couple videos about the first, me watching the first two episodes. Man, I had some people come out of the woodwork. I'm like, I have never gotten that much interaction in any of my content than when I talked about Star Wars stuff, especially the first 2 episodes of Acolyte. Like, people were coming at me, and I was like, look, I'm not like trying to say this is good or bad. I'm just telling you what I saw. I was just making a couple jokes. Like, my bad. I thought we could all have a laugh here, right? Oof. So I don't know if I'd make any more Star Wars content, but I consider myself a Star Wars fan. I've seen a good amount of Star Wars stuff. Like, I watched Clone Wars. I watched Rebels. I didn't watch Resistance. But I know people who did. I watched all those little, like, Jedi shorts or whatever, But did you watch Young Jedis or whatever with the little blue guy? I don't know. Anyways, I'm just gonna get into it. So, Acolyte. I can tell you what I did like about it is, okay, the whole idea. I remember when I first heard the concept, like old Jedi lore, that's cool. I haven't seen much of that, because most of Jedi lore I see is just like, it's all like, prequels and onward after that. No, I want to hear like the roots, because I don't know much about that Star Wars stuff. Like, I don't sit there and read, all the books or whatever. And that's another thing I think people get upset about when it comes to Star Wars, is that like what's considered canon. Because like I think one of the things that people were upset about was, like, if I remember correctly, the whole like the witches making life using the Force, and people were like, oh, they can't do that because only Darth Plagueis can do that or whatever. But I don't know where, like I said, it's one of those things like, what's canon? Is this Disney canon? Is this like, there's like the books, right? Or comics or whatever? Like, what do you consider canon, right? My say to that is like, it's a big universe. It's a big galaxy. You don't know what kind of crazy stuff could happen, I mean, that's something when I learned in like, pretty much like watching like Rebels or even Clone Wars. Like, when they go to like different planets, like there's so much crazy stuff that can just happen out there in the galaxy. Like, sure, I guess it could happen, right? I guess I can say this. For most of the show, I enjoyed a good chunk of the characters, actually. Like Soul, Squid Games guy right there. Honestly, probably the best part of the show for me. I loved his character. I loved the trajectory of it. Like, he was this, like, I love flawed characters, and like, the journey of like, okay, man, I gotta right my wrongs, right? And that was him. You saw the struggle of like, I did this thing that was probably bad, I killed some people because I was trying to save these kids. My intentions were good, but, some of the worst things in history were done with good intentions, JP3 quote there. But so yeah, and it sucked when they had to kill him, but I understand why he died. It was for Osha's trajectory, right? For her character. The Padawans, I really liked them. They were kind of like this guy right here. At first I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about him, but over time I'm like, oh, he's just young and he doesn't know fully better yet. Same thing with Jekyll. I don't know, that's the name. Who might I say went like toe to toe with this Sith right here pretty well, actually, almost better than Soul for a second there. But what sucked is that like all these characters who I actually like, they die, they get killed, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, Padawans are dead. What's her face from The Matrix? Where's she from? I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She I mean, obviously she dies like pretty early on, but yeah, all these characters I liked, they just died. This guy, I wasn't feeling him as the Sith for a while, because in the beginning he's like kind of like, oh, I'm scared and dorky, and then all of a sudden he's just like, I'm jacked and I'm a Sith, and it was like a totally Obito Naruto moment where I was like, I did not see that coming, and I didn't know how I feel about it, because my confusion is like, what is the Acolyte? Like, are we trying to like start to see the rise of like the Sith and where they come from? If I'm being straight honest with you, I didn't know. I guess I didn't read the synopsis of the show before it started. But apparently Darth Plagueis was there. I didn't know that. I was not paying attention when that. I was looking at my phone when that scene popped up, and then because I remember seeing the hand, and I was like, okay, whatever, that scene where he's like, naked in the pond or whatever. But that episode, but yeah, Darth Plagueis was there. I had to rewatch it because I told some people like, hey, I finished the show. They're like, what'd you think of it? And I was like, oh, just talking about it, right? And then they're like, what about Darth Plagueis? The whole thing, and I was like, he was in it, and I had to like, it's funny. So this is just a sidebar of like Googling things. I Googled Darth Plagueis in the Acolyte. I remember I Googled it on like just Google, and then YouTube, and I didn't really get any videos of it showing up, so I actually had to go to TikTok, and I was like, okay, I know TikTok could actually show me it and actually show me the clip, because I was not gonna turn on Disney Plus just to rewatch that one clip. But yeah, thank you TikTok for actually giving me the spoiler there. But so yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, I don't know how I felt the Sith at first. I mean, he had a cool mask. It did remind me of the Vermilion 3 Slipknot album cover. Over time he kind of grew on me, but not my favorite character. I know his character remind me of like when you go into college, and like, let's say all your life you've been spoon-fed these ideas about like how the economy and the government and religion works, and then you have like this young dude with like the punk hair, and he's like, nah, anarchy, man. That's kind of how you remind me of, but not fully, but that's like the vibe I get. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I just thought that was a funny thing there. But I guess as I watch Star Wars, and I often wonder, like, I think one reason people get so passionate about Star Wars is because like it's rooted so deeply in like almost a lot of our media and our culture, because it's an old Star Wars is old, it's older than me. And then with each generation, prequels, the newer ones that everybody hates, and then even the TV shows, like each one of those raise a generation, right? And then like when they get older watching shows, they either gonna hate Star Wars or not hate Star Wars. Like I had a friend, I'm not trying to call you out, told me they didn't like Ahsoka, and I was like, it's probably because you didn't watch Rebels. And honestly, like, yeah, to watch Ahsoka, you have to watch Rebels. I mean, oh my god. So I could go on about Rebels, but just like, yeah, the whole thing with the Purgle, like you literally had to watch the finale of Rebels to understand why that happened, which is why I love the show, because I was like, oh, I watched Rebels. I all that time I put in that was I was rewarded for that. So that's something I had to say about that. So, but as I watch things, and this is more about just Star Wars, and I see people take franchises or things that I love, right? IPs that I love, and do their own twist and takes with them. Sometimes, a lot of people are like, oh, this does not hit because it's not like the old stuff. Or sometimes it's like, oh, it's not new enough. I feel people are so attached to like their IPs and stuff because it's rooted in nostalgia, And for some people, they can embrace the change, and for some people, it's hard for them. And so I often wonder when I watch something new, like let's say this new show, Acolyte, I wonder, like, okay, am I indifferent towards it because I'm getting old and I maybe like long for my nostalgia? Like, do I have my nostalgia goggles on too tight is what I'm saying, do I have them on too tight, or is it just actually bad, and that's a struggle I have when I'm watching a lot of this, because like, nowadays we have like, there's like nothing original anymore. Like everything I watch now is either an IP of something old and taken elsewhere and just scrapped for parts and made something new, which is not always a bad thing, right? But then I often wonder, like, do I not like this because I'm old, or because it actually is bad? That's something I encourage people to think about when they are watching newer stuff with like some of their classic characters in it. Think about it. Like, are we just old? Are you just old? Am I just old? I don't know. But so I try to give things a benefit, because I think like, and this is more psychologically, if I'm correct, I believe there's like a phenomenon that happens as people get older where they kind of get stuck in like the things that they like, and it's hard for them to really accept change. I don't know. I'm not a I don't know who studied neurologist, psychologist. Anyways, but yeah, I do find as I get older, I get stuck more in the things that I do like. But I want to not be that way, and that's why I try to give Acolyte a chance. And like I said, for the most part, it wasn't the worst thing I watched. You know, it wasn't like the was it the worst things I watched Star Wars based? I don't know. I mean, it wasn't the Star Wars holiday special. But there are a few things when I watch Star Wars stuff. This is all I really care about. I don't care about anything else. One, cute animal creatures and little droids. That's like, what? Check one? We got that in Star Wars. That's like staple. If there's not a cute little droid or creature, we're not watching it, you know? We need a little BBDO or whatever the heck. We need that's like a staple in Star Wars now. You gotta have that. For me, we need lightsaber battles. That's one big thing that I care about Star Wars. I don't care about anything else. All the political stuff. Actually, the political stuff I actually do kind of care about a little bit. In fact, I did like that. I did see some of that in Acolyte, you know, especially when the Jedi, this Jedi lady, she like goes to the council and then, you know, or like whoever runs Coruscant, and then talks about like this person was rogue, like Soul was rogue, and you know, like we won't make that mistake again. And they're like, well, maybe we gotta keep an eye on you guys because you guys get too big your britches. And that's another thing they alluded to was about how, you know, the Jedi were left unchecked, and that one guy was like, you know, it's only a matter of time before somebody goes too far, you know, and definitely alluding to what you know, Anakin does as Darth Vader, which yeah, I do like seeing that to some degree, like the political parts of like, you know, the Jedi are flawed. They think they're all fine and dandy, but no, they definitely too big for the bridges sometimes, and it's almost like our government. There needs to be a check and balances system, you know what I mean? And to sit there and say, no, we're just a private religion. No. We need to check you guys. You're getting a little too much power over here. And that was the Jedi's downfall, if you really think about it. So do kind of like that. But anyways, lightsaber battles. There are some decent amount of lightsaber battles, you know? A fair amount, more than I've seen in some other Star Wars. Not to say that every Star Wars needs lightsaber battles. I mean, look at Andor, you know, just, but I at least need pew pew, you know, shooting, you know, and then the whimsical scream. I don't know if I heard it in this one, but you know, I can't remember. But yeah, you need that. A lot of cool lightsabers I did see. Like this lady had a whip lightsaber. You know, that's pretty cool. I didn't see that very often. I didn't even know whip lightsabers existed. That was cool. I did like that. I mean, the fact that the kyber crystal turns red was kind of cool too as well. I mean, like I don't think we've ever really seen that in a Star Wars, like an official Star Wars thing. Kind of cool. Although the fact that it was Osha who did it, like I said, out of all the characters, May and Osha are the two that I didn't really vibe well with. I feel like I couldn't really understand what they wanted. It was kind of flip-floppy. But then again, you know, if I grew up in a witch's coven and then I was taken away from my family, and then one of them I was accused of killing the family by burning everything, I'd probably be messed up too. So I guess I give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But it was weird that all of a sudden in the end, what's his face was like, I'm gonna wipe your memory. I was like, you could do that? That felt like a little bit of what are those things called? Where you just like ex machina? Is that what it is? Yeah, I don't know if cis can do that. Like I said, I'm not a huge nerd when it comes to that. I mean, I'm a nerd at some things, but you know that one you're gonna ask someone nerdier than me about that one. I mean, I could do my research right now, but I'm a certified yapper, and we're not researching anything at the moment. It's just top of my head. But all I can say is that this has been just a ramble of the Acolyte, and it was all right. I mean, if you don't watch it, I don't blame you. If you do watch it, there are things about it that I could tell that they were trying to expand some things. But I guess, like I said, most people's issue is people care about Star Wars because of the passion that Luke did. And I remember yesterday I was watching the podcast with Darth Maul, voice actor Darth Maul, and voice actor of Obi-Wan, James. That's his name, James. But and they just, how I hear them talk, and I've been getting a lot of like YouTube shorts and like about this, but just the passion they talk about Star Wars, and especially with like Dave Filoni and George Lucas talk about their passion, and they're talking about like the dedication they put in the Clone Wars and like what they were trying to do, and how that show was revolutionary for its time and everything. I think that's why people get upset when like the Star Wars treatment isn't seen in certain things, because like, oh, you see how much passion these people put in these things, and then you get something like the Acolyte. I guess it's in the same way like with what happened with like a lot of like the superhero movies like DC and Marvel. Like no one was talking to each other, it seemed, or no one was really caring like, oh, I just want to make this thing and get my paycheck and get out of here. But like, and I think that's another reason why a lot of people get upset with a certain franchise is just they want to see the passion, the care, you know, the dedication, you know, the love and the support, because like there's a lot of love in those like older like Star Wars, especially like Clone Wars. They're definitely, like, you could tell like they put their time and effort and know the source material. I mean, they talk about how like when Dave Filoni is like getting you in the room before your voice acting role, he gives you the whole mythical reason why this happens. You know, I think people can notice that lacking maybe in like some of the newer stuff, like Acolyte. You know, and I think that's why people get so, for better lack of a term, butthurt about it. And I guess they have every reason to. You know, every reason and justification to do that. Like I said, didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was okay. No, don't at me. You know, I'm just a messenger. Yeah, I have my final notes about Acolyte is there's a scene, I think May tells Saul, see you in hell, which implies that there is a hell in Star Wars. So does Christianity exist, or do the Jedi believe in some kind of hell, or do the Sith believe in, like, you know what I mean? That's something I want to put some points into thinking. You know, does Christianity exist in Star Wars? I'm gonna look it up actually right here in a minute. So I did, you know, sorry for the break, but I did look it up, and there's a whole forum for subreddit Star Wars Reddit forum. I mean, like not a Reddit, but like there's a there's a little thingy for it. Like people are talking about it, debating it, or whatever. Star Wars fans never cease to amaze me. Jesus, you know, I admire your dedication, y'all. That's funny. But yeah. Acolyte, I was okay. That was it. That's all. I made a long video to just say that the show is okay. You know, like I said, at least it wasn't the Star Wars holiday special. Although that was actually kind of funny. But, you know, man, if we're talking about some good Star Wars content that'll come in here, this Lego Multiverse one, man, that's gonna be crazy. Sith Jar Jar, Jesus Christ, that's gonna be funny. You know, at least I got my Yoda crumbs. All right, juice out.